1 week. That's it. 1 week until training camp opens in Cranberry. And when it does, every drill, every shift of every scrimmage, never mind the preseason games, is really, really going to count. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates. I hope you'll check those out as well. Nearly 50 players, so many of them, in fact, that they had to spread over 2 rinks, populated the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex yesterday. Pretty much everybody on hand except for the biggest of the big names, and pretty much everybody, I'm presuming, having a firm grasp of what's ahead. I've tried to put together line combinations for October 9th against the Rangers. I've failed. I've tried to put together the third pairing on defense. I have failed. I've tried to pick a starting goalie to face the Rangers, and I've failed. And you know what? I'm okay with all of that. I really appreciate this versus the ease with which we were all able to do this over the past couple of seasons. In fact, taking this further, it's about time that the concept of competition was reintroduced to this franchise. And I'm talking about competition at, well, not just every roster spot, because that wouldn't be the case, but at every facet, if you think about it. 5-on-5 is always the natural focus for these kinds of exercises. You think who's on the first line, who's on the third line, and whatever else, but it's only a slice of the actual game. Who you rolling out on that first power play? After what that power play just endured, actually, no, what that power play made all of us endure for 6+ months. Absolutely everything should be on the figurative table except for Sidney Crosby. And even where Sid's concerned, his role, his specific positioning and what you want him to do should be up in the air. I can't do a first unit. I can't do a second unit. I can't do the guys up front. I can't do who's on the points. I can't do an offensive approach. I can't do a back-checking approach that'll keep them from giving up another 100 shorthanded goals. I can't do the penalty kill. I can put Brian Rust on there. I can put Lars Eller on there. But I don't know in what order, what sequencing, what positioning. I don't know who will be in the back. I don't know who Mike Sullivan's going to want to put out there in the final minute or two to protect a lead. I don't know who he trusts and who he doesn't trust, or who he's going to be required to learn how to trust. And you know what I'm referencing when I say that, because it's about young players. I feel like I don't know the difference in the moment between a Blake Lizotte and an Anthony Beauvillier. They're different types of players. They bring different qualities that you can use in different situations. But how does the rest of the team's assembly influence which one of them plays a bigger role? This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. I don't know what management in general could be thinking regarding Rutger McGroarty. I do know that somebody told somebody something along the way to make the kid and his agent and his family super happy about coming to Pittsburgh, where they were super unhappy about going to Winnipeg because they didn't think the Jets would find space for him. Does that mean he's de facto been promised something? He said no. When I asked him about it a couple weeks ago, doesn't mean there wasn't something there. What if he does great in one end and terribly in his own end? How does Sullivan react to that? How does Kyle Dubas react to how Sullivan reacts to that? And I've got one other, it's a wild card, but it could end up being a big, big wild card. And that's this. These silly little get-togethers that these players have that are almost entirely about conditioning, getting their legs moving. And in the session yesterday, Jeff Carter was a coach. Ty Hennis, the skills coordinator, is really good at running these sessions. They're not looking to do anything other than get their legs moving. Except the goaltenders. The goaltenders, their mission never changes. It's to stop the puck. And according to Taylor Haas, our beat writer at DK Pittsburgh Sports covering the Penguins, she doesn't recall even seemingly a handful of pucks making it past Sergei Murashov, the 20-year-old Russian who will be competing in North America for the first time and who might be doing more than competing. So remember those 3 goaltenders everybody was talking about just, a month or so ago? It's 4, and number 4 might well be the one to steal some of the headlines. This is all good stuff. This is all absolutely like nothing over the past couple of years. We could map out everything and then say, well, there's one spot here on the 4th line, and you're going to see a battle between, Nola Chari and, pick some random minor league right winger. And that's not it. We could cement Chad Ruhwedel, for crying out loud. Look, I love Chad. I'm not being disrespectful here. But you should not ever be able to say in advance who your number 7 defenseman is going into a season. Because that tells you that you know who your first 6 are. That means you don't have competition, and that means complacency sets in, no matter what the character is of the individuals. This is different. This is going to be better. I can't wait. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Eric, who says, Mr. Kovacevic, what will Sidney Crosby's statue look like when he retires? Well, Mr. Eric, I have to tell you that I've thought about this. I've considered a lot of different possibilities. I've considered Sid's accomplishments. I've considered Sid's character. I've considered Sid's own priorities in the game, or I should say priority, and that's winning, and that's winning everything, being a champion. And, so I picture Sid's statue being of him holding the Stanley Cup. Because Sid's 3 Stanley Cups, and of course there are other players who also won 3 cups in that same group, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Marc-Andre Fleury. But then I kind of step back and I think about the Mario Lemieux statue. Now, you don't have to have a vibe between all of your statues. If you look over at PNC Park, the Pirates, our oldest franchise, has a Roberto Clemente statue that's sculpted by the same woman, Susan Wagner, who did the Willie Stargell statue, and they're on the same side of the stadium, and there's some familiarity there. The same goes for the Bill Mazeroski statue outside right field, and then, of course, the Hannes Wagner statue is so old, appropriate given how long ago he played, that it was moved from Forbes Field to Three Rivers Stadium and now sits outside the main entrance of PNC Park, appropriate given that he's the greatest player in franchise history. But not the same scale, not the same feel to it. The Steelers, of course, are grossly understatued. All they have is one of the Chief, Art Rooney Sr. There absolutely unequivocally should be one of Mean Joe Green, ideally while he's still with us. But the next whisper I hear about anything to that effect will be the first. So you make it back to PPG Paints Arena, and we're talking obviously just about the Mario statue and nothing else. Should there be one of Jaromir Jagr? I'm not into that. I think the honors that he was given in the past year were both appropriate and fitting and enough. You can't undo history. He asked out. You can't undo history. When he had opportunities to return, he didn't. That's not statue material. Sid is the next statue. And so you have Mario and you have Sid and you have Mario, the greatest one-on-one play. No, the greatest player who ever lived, but also within that, the greatest one-on-one force as a forward that the game's ever seen. And you have him at his prime splitting 2 Islanders, Jeff Norton and Richard Pilon, By the way, both of those dudes have been asked about what it's like to have themselves up there as a statue. And they're really cool about it. They're like, they've shown it to their kids and whatever. And all you really see of like Pilon and Norton are their butts. If you're facing the Mario statue, it's just their butts. Now, if you go to the other side, which I'm sure is what Pilon and Norton did, it's like, hey, kids, look, there's Dad. What was I even talking about? Oh, yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing Sid be shown in action. When I think of Sid, I think of constant motion, constant energy, constantly buzzing with the puck, constantly with his head on a swivel. And more than anything, I think of Sid blowing a backhander past some poor goaltender who doesn't recognize backhanders anywhere near as well as he does forehanders, because that's how all goaltenders are. Owner of the most dangerous backhander in hockey history, with that straight blade, the whole deal. That's where I am. So if that's Sid putting that backhander past the goaltender on that rush, the night that he came back from the concussions, and he spun around the corner and he yelled out, F yeah, and the crowd went berserk at PPG Paints Arena, that's fitting. It's action and action. Oh, and you know what else? You know who he did it against, right? That's right, the Islanders, pal. We'll have more statues of the Islanders in Pittsburgh than they do in Elmont, New York. I appreciate the question, Mr. Eric. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.